All Delulu besties, welcome!
This is a safe space to vent, talk shit, reflect, and most importantly, keep it real.
It's better to trauma dump here so that we don't explode on innocent randos. Just admit it, you're bothered. What's up, Delulu besties? Welcome back to another episode of Balancing the Bullshit.
Hi.
Hi, I missed you.
I miss you too. Oh my god, everyone, it's been, how long has it been? 2 weeks?
A week? Oh.
But it feels like
5 months.
Yeah, years.
Literally.
Yeah. So Karen went to Portugal last week.
I am a changed woman.
She is a changed
woman. I am
woman.
healed.
She's healed. I am healed too. Like, honestly, I feel like I've lived 1,000 lives since I last seen you.
What? How are we always on the same page?
Yeah, literally, like, so much is, it's just crazy how much so much happens in such a short amount of time for us now. Like every week it's like a new phase, it feels like.
Yeah, like things used to take us so long to figure out and then grow from it, and now it's like
exactly
every day. Maybe not every day, but yeah, I know what you mean.
It only takes a few days. Oh, and also another important update, our life coach Laura has listened to our podcast now.
We're not fired.
Yeah, she didn't disown us. We're still her clients. We were really scared because we told her all of our, ratchet, crazy stories, but like, still her hearing it on a podcast, we were still scared.
We were scared that she was going to be like, you guys are a fucking disgrace. Y'all cannot be my clients. You cannot represent me. Stop bringing up my name.
Yeah, she's going to sue us. Yeah. And but no, she loved it and she's very supportive. And she's going to come on as a guest at some point. So we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, she healed us. Now she can heal all of you guys.
Yes, we're very excited about that. So
I felt like it was like our proud mom. Like, not that I see her as a mom, but when she reached out to us and was like, I'm so proud of you guys, it felt like that, I'm like,
yeah, it felt like, okay, like we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So nice.
Okay, so let's talk about Portugal. So tell me about Portugal. What was your favorite thing? What did you learn? All the good shit.
Okay, it's hard because we did so much. We did really cool things. Like we did a boat for the sunset. We went out to the wine country and learned so much. Then we did like another day this tour. We went up to hike. I don't know what the name of the mountain is, but it was like we were on top of the world.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, so you could see the ocean, the city. It's crazy because you could see how tiny the city actually is and how huge the ocean is. And it kind of just like when you're up there, like she was like, okay, girls, I'll let you go have your own moment up there. And I was like, what does she mean? Because apparently it's known for like somebody way back when like built a church up there because it's supposed to be like really healing at the top of the mountain. And all of a sudden, so I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know what she's talking about. Like, let's just go look at the view. And it was like being one with nature, which sounds crazy, but it just made me realize like how we all get sucked into our lives and we think it's so important and it's the end of the world when something happens. But then I was like, really, like Mother Nature is the boss here. Like you could see how huge the ocean was and she could eat up the entire city in a second if she wanted to. Like it just was very humbling to see it from so high up. Like it just seeing how little the city was. Like, and it reminded me like, with our egos, like we're not that big of a person. Like we're just one tiny little human being on the planet. And then even outside of the planet, there's so many other planets. Like it's not the end of the world when something happens. Like we're not that special.
Right. Yeah. It puts things into perspective.
Yeah, it did. Oh my God. We ate so much amazing food, drank so much wine, walked a lot. Yeah. It was kind of like an eat, pray, love trip.
Oh my God. Love that for you.
And now I gained like 500 pounds. So I'm going to go run 500 miles.
You wrote a book called Manifesting a Size Zero. So you'll be fine. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. I'll figure it out. It'll be okay. I know. When I was like, oh my God, I gained 500 pounds. And then I was like, wait, I should stop saying that. This is like the opposite. I'm going to manifest weight gain now.
Right. Yeah. Practice what you preach.
Yeah, literally. So I forgot where we were going, but we were on a bus, like a 3-hour bus ride. And I was reading this book. It's called The Heart of Buddha's Teaching. And when I came across this section, I was like, oh my God, I want to bring this up on the podcast. I know Danny and all the Delulu besties are going to love this.
Let's hear it.
Okay. We have to learn the art of resting, allowing our body and mind to rest. If we have wounds in our body or our mind, we have to rest so they can heal themselves. Calming allows us to rest, and resting is a precondition for healing. When animals in the forest get wounded, they find a place to lie down and they rest completely for many days. They don't think about food or anything else. They just rest and they get the healing they need. When we humans get sick, we just worry. We look for doctors and medicine, but we don't stop. Even when we go to the beach or the mountains for a vacation, we don't rest, and we come back more tired than before. We have to learn to rest.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like not just with being sick too, but if you're just trying to like heal from like a heartbreak or trauma or like something, anything, are a lot of people just want to like go. Like, let me do the work. Let me get there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Instead of taking time to rest and like let it happen naturally when your body's like recovered and can handle that.
Which I understand, because this was another epiphany I had too, just being on the airplane and then being up, with the clouds. I was like, wow, it's so still up here. And then it reminded me of being back in the city when we're bombarded with cars, all the noise, all the people passing by us, so many distractions, all the billboards, like there's so much chaos. So it's society that's like telling us to go. Whereas if you're in the clouds, there's nothing else to do other than to rest. So like you wouldn't have anxiety up there.
But that's also like especially true in American culture, like hustle culture.
Okay, when we were talking on the other episode about how when my ex and I broke up in college, and then rather than taking time to rest, and heal, I just was like, okay, whatever, I'm moving on with my life, and then started partying, which was such a toxic choice. And then not even with that, just like even in work situations, I've had so many times in corporate life where like something's wrong, and rather than taking a step back to look at the big picture, which is way more effective in the long run, I'm like, no, I got to work harder. I'll figure it out along the way. But like, resting.
So important. I'm actually so happy you brought this up, because it immediately makes me think of what I did this year. So like, as you know, and as I said on a previous episode, like I went through a really bad breakup at the beginning of the year that just kind of like destroyed me, not just because of him, but just like everything that I've been pushing back for so long finally just like
bubbled up.
Yeah, just resurfaced, and I had to deal with it. And like normally what I would have done is, drink more, do drugs, like have sex. Like this was all like stuff the old me did. But this year I've done nothing. I took probably like a good 6 months of just resting, but it was like the healing kind of resting. I stopped pushing myself. I just like spent a lot of time alone, just figuring out like, how can I make sure that I don't go through another situation like that again? And just taking time to be by myself and like reading, journaling, meditating. Like I got into all of that this year, and I've never done that before. And it was just, to me, that was just very restorative rest. Like it was nothing that was exhausting me. I wasn't going out exhausting myself trying to like get attention from other people, validation from other people. I was just trying to do it all by myself, and it worked. It definitely works. So rest, everyone.
It's huge. And going back to my trip, I would say overall the biggest thing I learned, like why it was such a healing trip, is because they are so authentic in Portugal. Everyone, all of our tour guides were so cool. Like here, everyone in America is just so uptight and serious and professional. Even a tour guide, like they're telling you the information, but they're not acting like your friend. Like these people, I felt like we were family. Like they just are so relaxed. And you know how all of Europe, like they all drink wine. And I mean, Court and I drank so much wine there, but it was really cool just all day long, like during the workday or at nighttime in the evening, just seeing people like all coming together and laughing and drinking wine together. I was like, wow, even if people go out here in the US like to happy hour, they're not laughing and having a good time. They're all just sitting there miserable, complaining about how awful their office day job is.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful too. And it's also like everyone there is a community, and it's not like here where I feel like we try to one up each other all the time, like with status, what you're wearing, how much money you make, like what kind of job you have. Like that's a big driver of conversations here and just how people interact with each other.
Yeah.
And there, everyone's kind of on the same, we talked about this, how everyone's kind of on the same level. Like everyone.
Yeah, I didn't see a big difference between like poverty and wealth. Everyone just seemed way more equal than here in the US.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, a big part of it is because like their money and economy situation is not the same as it is here, where like, you know, they definitely make less money, but everyone's on more equal. It's not such a big gap between you know, the high class and low class. It's like not everyone's at the exact same, but everyone's on a more level playing field. So yeah, I just think that sounds like something that we're missing here.
Awesome. Yeah. And it helped me to see that. It helped me to give myself grace, because the only reason why I have even opened my eyes to all this and you is because of Laura, but now seeing it play out there in another country, the way that they live lives and like how they value family, I was like, okay, well, it makes sense that I live life in such a different way. Yeah, because of the way our economy's set up, the way like we're bombarded with media and advertisements always telling us we're not good enough. So it makes sense why it was hard for me to even understand what Laura was explaining to me. And now I feel like this was the icing on the cake, just seeing it like in real life in Europe.
No, I think that's really cool. And I think if we could can you imagine if we could get everyone in the world kind of on that same page?
Holy shit.
Like how much we could accomplish and how much happier everyone would be. Like if we could just stop all competing with each other and stop letting everything revolve around money and status. And like have everyone be able to do, you know, contribute in a way that brings them joy, I guess. So
if everyone could be their authentic selves and then find a way to make money around that, could you imagine?
Yeah. That's what I feel like, you know, it's possible. It's not an impossible thing to do, but it's just going to take so much waking up for so many people.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to a podcast about this. I think it's definitely starting, like people are starting to wake up, especially since COVID.
Yes.
Like imagine how different, or remember how different we were like pre-COVID. Like that really set things in perspective for a lot of people.
Thank God.
And I think a lot of people are slowly waking up. It's different speed for everyone, of course. But yeah, I think I'm crossing my fingers we're on a track to get there someday.
Yeah.
Where like the way we're living, especially here in the US, is not how it's going to be. It's not sustainable to be like this for the rest of eternity.
And Portugal, they have been around, I think they said it was like somewhere around like 1100, and then the US has only been around since like 1700. So one of the tour guides from when we did the wine country, he was like a huge history nerd, so I didn't know all this. But yeah, he was saying they went through a similar thing. Like they've just been around a lot longer than the US, so they've learned from their mistakes. So he was like, I think eventually the US will also evolve. Because, yeah, exactly what you said. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But like at the winery, the cutest freaking thing. So we went to 3 wineries. They fed us at the second one, and they are willing. This was like very like mom and pop, like cute vibes. They were telling us how they're willing to not make as much money just to not make it, like not to mass produce, because they want to keep that authenticity. And they would rather, you know, have less customers because they're going to buy at a higher price, which is true when, you know, they feel at home, which is true. That was the only winery that I brought a bottle back home from. And they fed us lunch there, and it was a home cooked meal. It was like 6 people from the tour. And this old lady brought it out. She cooked it all herself. It was the cutest thing. And I just was like, wow, we don't ever get these kind of experiences in the US. And it just like, it grounded me and brought me back home to like what really matters.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like you said, you're not going to find that in the United States at all. It's all revolved around money and how can we get as many customers as possible, sell as much as possible. So I love that. And I had a similar experience in Ireland when I went a couple of months ago. Like people there are just so friendly, so kind. You know, everyone seemed to be on the same playing field as far as like money wise and everything. It just seems like such a better place than the United States. Like I know
capitalism.
I know like we're very lucky to live here in the US.
Yes. We have a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm hate it or anything, but it just
was eye-opening. Yeah, a mix would be nice.
Yeah.
And speaking of money, another healing thing. Okay, you know how I was telling you about the guy that I'm seeing right now, and when I got the biggest ick before I left for the trip.
So yeah, just remind everyone in case, because I don't know if we've mentioned this person before. So you've been dating.
Yeah, for like a month.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was saying we went on a date a few weeks ago and I was like, well, he's not love bombing me. So that's
so we did talk about him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So this guy, okay, in his defense, he was sharing a house with his ex-girlfriend and then they broke up and she just left him to pay the rent on his own. Mm-hmm. So it seems like maybe it's just a little tight. I don't know. I don't really know what his financial situation is, but he just had started to make some comments. And okay, let me preface this with saying, so far I have noticed a lot of green flags. Like, for starters, the most important thing is just what we were talking about. Like, I don't have anxiety, no butterflies, which we know is anxiety. Like, I just feel very calm and safe around him, which I know is very hard to find and very important. Yeah, because so many other guys that I date and everyone, like, you don't realize that you're not being yourself because you're so caught up on wondering, like, well, does he like me? And then you just want to try harder.
Trying to be someone to get them to like you.
Yes.
Yeah, you're trying to be someone you're not.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's hard to walk away because you're like, let me just try harder. Like, we need more time. And then but with this guy, it's only been a month. And ever since day one, I have showed up as like my messy, authentic self. I just feel so comfortable and I don't feel like I'm not worried overplaying everything in my head. So it's really nice. I've never had this feeling. But okay, the ick that I got.
Oh no, I hate the ick.
I know, it was so bad. Okay, so when he first asked for my number when I met him, he made some comment about like, oh, and then you could take me out for a drink, which obviously he was trying to flirt, but I was like, what? Okay, that's weird. You're gonna pay. And then after he paid for the first 2 dates, and then after that, he was like, okay, you have to get the next one. And I don't know, like, what my face said, but it probably
I can only imagine, like, because I know that does not
sit
or used to not fly with you.
Yeah, no, especially like from all the previous guys that I've dated that like take me on trips, buy me handbags, shoes, like whatever.
Yeah. Well, these were also guys that were like sucked, but they were making lots of money.
Yeah, which I know was not normal for their age.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to humble myself and bring myself back down to earth. But I was going back and forth because I was like, well, I mean, should I just accept what I like? If all my exes are millionaires, whatever, like, do I really have to force myself to change who I am? Like, should I just accept this, like, superficial part of me? I don't know. I, like, kept going back and forth. I couldn't figure out why I was being so caught up in my head about this. And then before I left for Portugal, I was like, oh, I want to see you before I leave. And he texted me the day that we're supposed to hang out. And he was like, I'm craving steak. Do you want to go get steak? And so I was like, sure. And he just moved here not too long ago. So he was like, do you have any recommendations? And he was like, nothing like too fancy. What does that even mean? Like
Applebee's?
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm not going to eat at an Applebee's. So I was like, what? And I knew this was bound to happen because the same thing happened for sushi. When he was like, on the second date, we went to sushi and he was like, do you have any recommendations? I just didn't reply. And then he texted me again. I was like, okay, what about this place? I just found it online because I was like, I don't know what his budget is. I don't know any like low budget. I don't know. That just makes me so uncomfortable.
Real quick, I just have to say it's so funny, like the difference in like straight dating and gay dating. Like, especially for me, like I do not care like what type of place we go to. Like honestly, I don't know if I go to Applebee's, like that's pushing it.
Okay,
but like I would go to like Chili's, like I honestly would.
You would?
Yeah. Maybe not for like one of the first like one or two. Maybe that might be a little more later, like fourth, fifth, maybe down there. But for me, like that type of stuff doesn't matter. And also, splitting checks is 100% a thing.
That is wild.
Like, yeah, I mean, I have paid for someone's dinner before and they paid for mine, but like that's very rare. Like that's just not a thing. in my world.
In my defense, the reason why I'm corrupted, I think, because obviously, yeah, it's normal for like right out of college, we've been in our 20s. We're not all like millionaires yet, but I, right out of college, went into selling custom clothing, which is very expensive. So I was selling to CEOs, and obviously it's like the company wants to hire hot girls because like that's what CEOs like want. And so I think that changed me. And even one of my clients one time, like one of the other sales reps and I went to lunch with him, and he was like, girls, it's going to be really hard for you guys to find a boyfriend moving forward because like you're always getting wined and dined by all of us.
Yeah,
like,
your
all the clients.
Expectations are set so high now.
Yeah, that's what he said. And he was like, this isn't normal, but like, I'm just letting you know, like if you try to bring yourself back down, y'all are going to get the ick pretty much is what he said.
Which is what's happening.
And so I'm trying really hard to fight it and be like, no, I've got to like be chill and like,
just go with it. And I will just say, and I think you're getting to this point, but like for me, like going somewhere, so the example I use, Chili's, like somewhere that's not fancy, that's not like a typical date place. Like for me, that doesn't matter. I'm there to like get to know you and spend quality time with you. Like as long as we're eating somewhere that's like enjoyable and we're both having an enjoyable experience, like that's all that matters to me.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And I do know, like, even Laura had told me this because I would get confused when she would be like, Karen, this guy sucks. And I'd be like, well, he bought me this really nice handbag. Obviously, he, like, thought of me when he was out and about, like, in Paris or his work trip or whatever. She was like, no. But
he's, like, buying your love, basically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, okay, going back to the steak dinner, I recommended this one place. It's pretty close to my apartment downtown. And it's, I mean, even, like, again, I started going to this place for happy hours when I worked at Custom Clothing because like we would put it on the company card. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. Fucking judge me. But like, I don't go to chain restaurants. And so I was like, but look this place up. So we get there and we ordered drinks. And then he goes, do you want to leave? I don't want to pay for this.
Okay. Yeah. Now that's like, if you're already there, like you should stay there.
I was like, what? And then I just had a lot of thoughts. So we ended up leaving.
A lot of thoughts. I love that.
Then we went to Ruth Chris's right down the street, which is probably the same place, but
same price wise.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
But it is a chain.
Yeah, it's a chain. So I was like, is this guy just more comfortable with chain restaurants versus like, because the place I had gone to or wanted to take us to where we left, it's like there's only one of those in Austin. So it seems more like pretentious. But that's what I like about Austin, those places that like
I agree with that.
Get anywhere else. And it has nothing to do with being pretentious. I don't know, maybe I've just been here for so long. And that's kind of what I told him because he was like shocked by everything. I guess like the atmosphere there, like I guess it seemed bougie because the lights were turned down and the price. I was like, I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying, but maybe I've just been here for so long. This is just kind of what I've been pushed into. These are all the places I go to somehow. I don't know what to tell you. Well, then we go to the chain restaurant and I was like, I pulled my card out and I was like, oh, here, do you want to split it? And he said, yes. And then I just was really shook. Like, who the fuck asks me out to go eat steak and then, like, doesn't pay for it? Obviously, friends, like, if you texted me, obviously I'm going to pay for my own.
A date.
Yeah, a date. I was so shook and I had the biggest ick. And I know this from experience of, like, living life on this spiritual path that it's never about the money. And we've talked about this before on the last episode, how it's never about the money. There's something else lying underneath that. So I just was wondering, like, okay, why is a 33-year-old man not able to pay for a steak dinner for, like, the both of us? Like, if you're not there with your finances, what have you been doing with your career? Like, are you not ambitious or driven? And if you're not, are you insecure? Or, like, what got you to this point? Like, why are you not doing more? So my plan, because I had the ick so bad, was just to go to Europe and kind of fizzle out and never talk to him again. But then the trip was so healing that it just brought me back down to earth. And the money thing, like, kind of just dissolved from my head. I realized I was worrying about, because right now, like, I'm trying to get, I'm becoming an entrepreneur. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make money by not being in corporate America, how I'm going to like provide a living for myself. So I don't want to be blowing all my money on steak dinners either. So,
and you wouldn't want someone to judge you for that either. Like,
exactly.
So you were were able to take a step back and be like, oh, it's not kind of right for me to think and judge someone this way when I'm not in the best situation either, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it does go back to what we were saying, like, what was I expecting for him to pay for it all? But then that's just going to distract me because then it's like I'm getting this shiny dating experience, which is going to trick my brain into thinking that I like him.
Oh my God, so true. Yeah, because that shit doesn't matter, really.
Yeah, it doesn't. Mm-mm. And then what else am I worrying about? So like right now in the present moment, I'm okay with neither one of us like going out, balling out, blowing our money, because we're both still building our careers and trying to figure ourselves out. And like, I will say with all the millionaires that I've dated in the past, it did make me feel insecure how they already had it figured out. And I was always hesitant to open up about like what a roller coaster my career was, because I was like, well, they have it figured out. Like they're going to be turned off because I'm not perfect like them, kind of a thing.
And then, but also at the same time, it was also drawing you to them. Like, oh, let me try to prove myself. Show my worth.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just like bad from all angles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And so anyway, in Portugal, with that being out of my mind, because I think what happened in Portugal is like my cup was just completely filled. Like it was already filled for the most part because of all the healing that I've done with Laura. But I think it was the icing on the cake that I needed to fill up like the last of my cup and just be fully content with myself and not need anyone or anything else to like validate anything within me. Like I am now completely validated. And I think that last piece of the icing on the cake I needed was just to be reminded of like the truly important things, like family, just being authentic, like spending time with good people, like nothing at all with money. And so with money just not being on my mind, I realized that I kind of like him.
Oh my God. Yay.
I mean, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, I've known you obviously for a very long time. And we've never, I mean, I agree money is important to me too. And I do want that for myself. And I want to be with someone who has ambition, even if they don't have, you know, what we would consider a good amount of money, like at least have ambition to get there.
Yes.
But also at the same time, like we mentioned this on, I can't remember if it was the last episode or the one before that, like money doesn't have anything to do with them as a person or you as a person.
Yes.
Nothing. So that's just kind of one of those distracting things, like you said. And yeah, and I've known that's been really important to you for a long time. And I've always thought, I don't know if I've ever said it, but like that's like kind of just like an old school way of going about dating, which I mean, I get it, but I think we're finally at part of like growing up and just connecting to your higher self and being spiritual is like realizing that's not really a priority we should be worrying about.
Yeah.
Like I agree ambition and drive is, and I think money is always going to come with that. So, it sounds like he has that.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's all that matters, really. And I think also it's just kind of funny, like, look at all the rich guys you've dated. They've all been shit.
Yes.
Like, they've all sucked. Like, those two, money and, like, being a shitty person, unfortunately, go hand in hand for, like, so many people.
Yeah.
And I think you were looking for someone with money. That's what you're wanting. So, of course, the universe is, like, giving you that.
Yeah.
It's like, here you go. Here's another rich guy. But it's not for you. Like, those types of guys are, well, maybe there's some, but, like, the majority of them are not for you. And that's why it's never working out. And the universe just keeps giving you, here's another guy. And it's like, eventually you'll wake up what you have and, like, realize, like, oh, yeah, this was like a test every time. Yeah. Like, your dating life has been such a test. And it has been for me too in other ways. But like every time the universe is just giving you a test and you've been like failing until now.
That's what I realized too. I was like, I trust like my energy so much. Like I meditate every day. I do yoga. Like I do so much spiritually. And I really do trust that everything like happens for me, not to me or against me, and like everything, I go with the flow, and my life has been pretty amazing ever since I started living life that way. And whenever I start to control things, that's when life gets really shitty. So I was like, okay, if the universe brought me this guy for whatever reason, my energy attracted him, like pulled him in towards me at the dog park because he approached me and he's still been around. It's already been a month. Like maybe I should just stop, because if you think about it, what I was worrying about, since right now in the present moment I am okay with where we are financially, I was just worrying about the future. Like, well, what if we end up having a family? I don't even fucking want kids, first of all, but this is where my head went. Like, well, is he going to be able to provide? Like,
and you're just making up
kids? Yeah, I'm just like making up shit about the future, like a crazy person, when I've known this guy for like 2 minutes.
Which is like rule number 1 of like controlling your anxiety is like, stay present and don't make up these stories, which we, as much work as we've done, we still fall into that.
Yes.
Oh, and another thing, I've read this in a book that I've read recently, and online also, just some studies have been saying like, you actually can be more successful with a partner. So if you're with someone who is like truly a good match for you and you really uplift each other and motivate each other, that's going to like push you guys to like, you're secure in your relationship at home. So now you can go out and you have like all this energy and all the support to like really go out and reach your goals.
Wait, that makes so much sense.
And that's something I always forget about. So like, I have hope, like say you guys do end up together, like this could be like a good thing for both of you to like move forward in your careers and like actually bring in the money.
Yeah.
Cause like, that's like, it's harder to do it by yourself, apparently. Studies have shown. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people do it, but like, you know, think of the people who like really get rich and they're single. Like, these are like those shitty guys that you're dating. Like, they're so unhappy. They had to like just kind of
they're
forget
so empty.
Empty. Like, forget who they are and to get to where they want to be. Like,
and I thought about all of them, and I think actually, this is probably what I needed to hear, because I hadn't heard this before, but I was thinking about them the other day, like all my exes, and I was like, yes, I want somebody who's successful and, you know, like has made it on their own. But then, it's something about once they've made it on their own, it's almost like they don't need anything from anyone. And that's why they're so closed off.
Yeah.
And so that kind of makes sense. I don't know if it made sense in my head.
No, that is definitely part of it. Yeah, it's just, I think the whole idea is just being with a partner who supports you unconditionally. Like, you feel secure and happy. You're finally able to just like be yourself, and you have no distractions, no anxieties and everything. That type of like clear-mindedness is going to allow you both to like go out and accomplish like all these goals and everything that you want to. Yeah. So when I read that, that was a huge eye opener.
That's
for
eye opening.
Me. Yeah.
And I will say, okay, I mean, again, granted, it's only been 1 month, but teaser, we're going to have Miss America on the podcast soon. I'm so excited.
Yes.
And it's only because of him. He, one day, I don't know what we're talking about, something about the podcast. And he was like, you should bring on celebrities or like NFL players. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know any celebrities. Right. But then it planted the seed in my head. And then I started thinking of all these people that I actually do know. And it gave me ideas.
Yeah, see? Yeah. So like just having like that support system, someone who's there supporting you and pushing you like in a good way. Like,
and what also happened is, you know, Laura, the whole reason why I was avoiding her was because I didn't want to admit that I started dating after I said I wouldn't. And the whole reason why we even came to that agreement is because when you approach dating as just friends, then you're able to get to know each other without those expectations of like, you have to pay for my dinner. Like, it cuts out the superficial, like surface level bullshit in the beginning, like the initial stages. And that's kind of where we're at now. So this past weekend we hung out, and now we're on the same page. Like, I don't want him to ask me out to dinner for me to pay for it. I don't want to be in that uncomfortable situation again. I don't think he does either. And so now we're able to just truly hang out like we would with friends. We play tennis. We took the dogs on the hike. And these are the things that I love the most, like doing activities, like what feeds my soul. It does make way more sense to get to know somebody this way versus like the shiny
whining and dining. Yeah. I agree. And I think this is so huge. Like, this is a big growth.
This is literally a first in my entire life.
Yeah. So this is crazy.
And it is just nice. I've been noticing a change, like how I value going back to my relationship with my ex in college. Like I did have the safety and like the comfort, but it was chill. It was boring to me at the time. And I wanted, like the adventure, I guess you could call it adventure, but like the one night stands, like that rush and the high of like getting attention from guys all the time. And now just being back in Europe and like thinking about him, like when we talked a few nights, I was like, I'm excited to go back to him, like because it was kind of the theme, like the whole trip. It wasn't like I was on a high. It was like very eat, pray, love, like very chill, like feeding my soul. And it just, yeah, like when I'm with him, and I don't even know how to explain it because it's just a feeling. I've never had this before, other than like, I guess in college when I didn't appreciate it because I wasn't healed. But like, I just feel safe and confident and secure. And it's just so nice to finally actually want this and not like want something unhealthy and toxic.
Yeah. I agree. I'm super happy for you. And I know, yeah, every person you've dated this year has like been pushing you, even if if it didn't work out, for the ones that didn't work out, it's been pushing you more and more to realize like what you want and what you deserve and like just kind of how to date healthily.
Okay,
that's the word.
This is going to sound crazy, but I swear, yeah, all the other guys that I've dated this year were like small tests from the universe, and the test got harder and harder every time. And this happens like with manifesting too. Like it's like the universe is testing you to see if you are capable. Like, for example, with money, it's like the easiest example. If you're wanting to manifest money, but you're not, how did I explain it in my course? Oh, like, okay, somebody who has the habits of, think of like a rich person who lives on a golf course that they are disciplined. They get up like every day, let's say at 7 a.m. and they have good hygiene and they have an HOA, so they have to keep up with their lawn. Like they're disciplined. And then think about somebody who is underprivileged in like a low income neighborhood. They're probably not as disciplined. Their house isn't kept up as nicely. I'm just trying to like paint the picture here. And so say like somebody from the low income household is trying to manifest money, the universe will give that to you, but it's going to send you tests along the way because it's got to get you to that point where you're disciplined enough to be able to maintain, to sustain the money. And so I think same with my relationships all this year, not relationships, but like everybody I dated, I think it got harder and harder every time because I think the universe wanted to see like if I was actually going to communicate now and stand up for myself and turn the guys away that don't treat me right before it handed me a good one.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's such a beautiful thing too. Like, and you finally learned, and the same thing has been happening to me. I mean, my whole life, like the guys I go after who are not right for me, it's just been a test every single time, and it gets harder and harder. And every time it doesn't work out, it's harder and harder. I guess we can switch over to my dating life now.
Please.
Yeah, to update you guys. So I had that really bad breakup in January, and I actually have not dated a single person until October. So about 10 months. Yeah.
You used to be boy crazy.
I know. Like I would need to like go on a date ever so often to like feel anything, feel validated. Like I was always looking for a relationship.
Yeah,
like my whole life. Like that's what I thought was going to fix me. Nothing was wrong with me, but I thought that was what was going to make me feel better.
Like fill the void.
Yeah. Like I was looking for someone to always make me feel happy and distract me from myself and like everything I didn't like about myself. So anyway, I had this really bad breakup in January that just like absolutely crushed me. I had to deal with all the trauma that I've dealt with since being a child, really. So yeah, it's been a very healing year, extremely healing year. And it's been about 10 months. Yeah. And I finally had decided, I met a guy online, of course. And we started chatting, and I was like, okay, maybe it's time I go on a date again. Like, let's just see what happens. Cause we, it's one of those that we connected really well over text. Like, let's see if it translates in person. And we had 3 dates. in the span of 1 week. So it was a lot of dates in 1 week. Yeah. But we did really connect. It felt different because I hadn't had that type of connection, I feel like, with someone I was dating before. So it kind of made me think, oh, maybe this is right. Like maybe I finally learned, I'm finally doing things right. Yeah, we were just able to talk really deeply, and just personalities match really well. Lots of laughing, lots of, a mixture of like being funny and laughing, and a mixture of, talking deep about, everything, life and past and all this stuff. Like was very vulnerable. We were very vulnerable with each other. Everything seemed great, but I still felt extremely anxious. Not when we were together, but like anytime we weren't together, I was feeling extremely anxious, and I was getting frustrated, and I was like, God damn it, like why am I still feeling anxious? I've worked so fucking hard to fix this about myself. And by the way, this anxious attachment, anxiety, is never something that's like going to be fixed. It's like, it's just learning how to deal with it and manage it and get out of it sooner, rather than spiraling and lasting, being super anxious or super depressed for like long periods of time. It's more about how you can recognize it quicker and talk yourself out of it, pull yourself out of it, whatever you want to call it. Like it's never going to be fixed or completely healed in that way.
And that's something so important that you taught me, actually, because the first step in all this therapy work was realizing that I even had an anxious attachment style. And then I immediately wanted to fix it, because I wanted to fix myself, because that's what I wanted to do my whole life, because I've never been perfect enough, from all the trauma from childhood. And so I wanted to be like, okay, well, how, like, what do I need to do to like stop chasing guys? And so I think when you explained all of this to me, it's so important, because you just like, don't try to change yourself. Just accept it. It is what it is. Like, accept yourself with the wounds that you have, and then just manage how to work around them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I was just getting frustrated. Like, why am I still feeling like this? And then on our third day, I was like, well, why don't I just try talking to him about it and like telling him how I'm feeling, just being open, honest, vulnerable. Like maybe that will bring us closer and fix this.
Okay, no. First, Danny was texting me. He was like, I don't know. I just want him like to find a reason to not like me. And I was like, or you could just try communicating and maybe being vulnerable for the first time ever.
I was like, oh yeah, okay.
I was like, oh.
So So basically I did do that, and we did talk about
which I'm so proud of you, because that's very hard.
It is
especially
hard,
after only 3 days to really be vulnerable.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you.
So thank you, and luckily, like we did have that close connection where it was uncomfortable, but like it was also, once I got it out, it was totally fine. Like he was very respectful and very reassuring, and asked like, "What can I do to make you not feel that way?" Like it was great.
And sorry, I keep interrupting you. That's the thing too, though. It's like we build up all this anxiety in our heads of why we're so scared to talk to the person and just be honest. Even with a boss at work, I would always have this issue. But when you're honest, then it gives you the opportunity to either kill the relationship, which good. If that relationship is toxic and it needs to be pushed out of your life, then good, kill it like sooner rather than later. Or it'll give you the opportunity to communicate and build something good.
Yeah.
So it's like you just got to work through that shit in your head. And then once you actually do it, it's great. It's actually not that scary at all. It's like,
no, yeah, it felt so good to be able to say that. And so, yeah, we had that talk. I felt super good. And like the anxiety actually went away for a few days. And then he had said something over text that just immediately made the anxiety come back. But I wasn't able to like pinpoint the exact moment. Like I wasn't able to connect that this comment was what made my anxiety come back. I was just like, I just noticed over time. I was like, oh great, like it's back. Like what now? I was like, okay, like I'm still feeling off. Like something, why am I feeling like this? And I actually spent that whole weekend. Well, I actually didn't have a choice. All of my friends were out of town, and so I had nothing to do except stay by myself all weekend, which I wanted to do. I was very happy to do, and so I just spent my whole weekend just kind of journaling, not just about this. I don't want to make it sound like I was so like obsessive about this.
Did you make candles?
I haven't made the candles yet, but I need to.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time journaling and just thinking about it, and it finally clicked for me, like the comment that was made, that's why I was starting to feel anxious. And the reason I was feeling anxious is because I realized we weren't necessarily as good as a match as I thought. Like I was so confident about us being a match, and I had just gotten carried away with like, oh, all these boxes he checks. I was ignoring any sort of red flag at all, which is what I always do. Like I'll never think of the red flag until like it builds up, we have a really bad breakup, and then months later, then I'll probably realize like, oh yeah, like I could have caught this from the very beginning. And I'm not saying this guy is great. He's nothing like any shitty ex I've had or anything like that.
It's but still better.
Yeah, it's still an improvement. But there was some comments that had been made. It wasn't just this one comment. There had been other comments, within our first week of talking. By the way, this was only a span of 2 weeks, so it's very short, week and a half maybe.
The days go so fast. Like your last relationship was what, 3 months?
Like 3 or 4 months,
and it's like, if that were straight people, that would have been a span of like a year.
Yeah,
at
but
least.
For gay people, it's probably like almost a year. 3 or 4 months would probably almost be.
Wow. We need to come up like, how dog years. It's
there's some
there needs to be like gay years.
I'll make like a chart.
Yes.
And then it just kind of like some light bulbs started going off. I was like, oh, if I would have listened to my intuition from day one, like our very first date, like I could actually think back and listen like, oh, if I would have caught that then, I would have known to maybe take it slower or maybe realize that this is not a match. But instead I just got carried away and I didn't realize these things. And so, when I realized, I was like, okay, well, I have to talk to him. Like, I wouldn't be able to move forward with knowing, I guess, this information that I know now. And basically, I won't get too much into it, but it was just some insecurity issues, and which I have had terribly in the past. Like,
no judgment.
Yeah, I don't judge at all. And it was just something I can't look past because I've worked so hard to get past. I didn't want that to rub off me. I didn't want to be around that anymore. I didn't want it to bring me back to that place. Like, one of the top 3 things that I've learned that I need in a relationship is someone who's secure. Because me being an anxiously attached person, I need someone who's secure. Like, that's, if I'm with someone who is avoidant or anxiously attached, that's just going to make me anxious.
Yeah.
And like we said, like you're never going to get rid of that anxiety. Like, you just have to learn how to manage it, but you also have to be with someone who isn't going to make you feel like that.
Yeah.
And, he wasn't doing it on purpose, and he's not even an avoidant person. So it's not like he was, being distant or anything to make me feel that way. He was very, very communicative.
It sounds like he was vulnerable too.
Yeah, very vulnerable. Like
all just weren't a good fit.
Yeah, it was like he was also anxiously attached. Like we both came to that realization, and he had some of the exact same issues that I had like earlier this year, even. So it's like I'm not judging, and they weren't like bad. It wasn't like he was being destructive about it or it was really toxic or anything like that. It was just something like I have my standards set now. That's something I just couldn't move forward with unless that was worked on. So this is basically what I told him.
What's that book that you read?
Attached.
Okay, everyone needs to go read that book.
Yeah, Attached. I forgot the author, but Attached, you just Google it. You'll find it very easily. An amazing book, especially if you have, even if you are dating and you feel like you have attachment issues, still read it. It tells you how to cope with kind of like if you're an anxiously attached person or avoidantly attached person in and out of relationships. So
because this has changed the game for us.
Yeah, exactly. Like this was the first book I read after that terrible breakup I had. Because like that was like one of the main things I wanted to fix was like how I approach dating. Yeah, and it was very helpful. So.
And one other thing, I know you had said this to me, which you pretty much just said, but how like you had noticed the one red flag about, I forgot what he said, but something that kind of made you think he was insecure on the first date. But obviously on a first date, if it's going well, it's very easy to overlook that because then so many other good things happen that kind of like distract you and cloud your judgment. So I always preach about manifesting, which pretty much just means listening to your intuition and being your authentic self, and going back to you very easily looking over that red flag on the first date. that it's so hard to listen to your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a prime example. So the more that you practice, like how Danny now realized it, and now next time he's probably going to listen to his intuition a lot sooner.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not the first day. I mean, I'm sure for you will, because you've had so much practice, but even for someone else, like it's like peeling off the onion layer one at a time, like just taking baby steps. So like maybe if you're not picking up the red flags on the first date, but maybe next time you'll pick it up on like the second or third. And so the more that you start to listen and honor your intuition, then the easier it becomes and the louder that your intuition becomes, because that's how you start to build the relationship with it. And then you get to a point where you are so familiar, where you're absolutely sure this is my intuition talking to me. The anxiety is coming up for whatever the reason. It hasn't played out yet in real life, so I can't put logical sense to it, but I'm going to walk away now because I trust my anxiety and my intuition, and I don't need to stick around to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
And that's when life gets really good.
Yeah.
And it stops being destructive.
100%. And that was literally what was happening to me. Like after our first date, my intuition was like screaming at me, but I wasn't able to interpret it as my intuition telling me like, don't go down this route, or maybe take it slower at least. Like it was just, I was feeling as anxiety. I was not sleeping. I was like so anxious. It was like ridiculous. Like the funny thing is like I mentioned he's anxious too, like anxiously attached too. So like when two anxiously attached people get together, I'm still the one who ended up anxious, because he was like not anxious at all. Like we talked about it. He was like totally fine. I made him feel like so comfortable and so secure and everything. And that's just that just goes to show like how much of an anxious person I am. Yeah. But I also think it goes to show like how much more I'm kind of like connecting to my intuition, because my body knew.
Yeah. And more to my point, you have already healed so many other parts of your life. You're very calm throughout the day. Like you're not filled with anxiety. So now that this came up, it was easier for you to pinpoint it within 2 weeks that, I'm correlating the anxiety to dating.
Yeah.
But you only got to this point because you started taking baby steps at pinpointing your anxiety and to what it was relating to and what was the deep-rooted issue. So like for someone starting out, their entire day is probably so chaotic, it's going to be hard for them to pinpoint what the anxiety is leading to. And so this is my point. Like the more that you slowly do it, the easier that'll get. Like the more that your life will heal and everything will be calm. And so then if one thing happens, you'll easily be able to know like, this is why I'm getting the anxiety.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I can tell you like for sure, if this would have happened last year even, I would have just stayed anxious. I would have never had a conversation with him about it. I would have continued seeing him until eventually things just like ended. Maybe it ended badly, or maybe it just fizzled out. But either way, I would have ended up super hurt. I would have been like blaming myself.
Would have probably all blown up in your face.
Yeah, and I would have ended up like, what did I do wrong? Or like, what's wrong with me? Yeah, it's just really amazing that I was able to pick that up within, a span of a week and a half. And like you said, next time it'll just get shorter. And and it ended really well with him. Like we actually decided we're still going to be friends because we really do enjoy each other's company. And I haven't really connected with anyone like that and ever really like a date, like at least another guy like that. So
mature.
Yeah. And even him, and it ended up being a mutual decision because he was on not the same page as I was, but he also just wasn't feeling it. I took it as me being a much more secure person. I wasn't making him anxious. Him, someone who is anxiously attached, he just wasn't feeling that spark with me that maybe someone who was making him feel anxious, he would feel.
Yeah, it sounds like he's not healed enough. Like he still needs to feed off of the anxiety feeling.
Yeah, and that's just I'm not saying that's exactly what it is, but that's just kind of like
what it sounds like.
I don't want I think he's an amazing person, but that's how.
No judgment. I've been there.
Yeah, that's how my situation ended, and so still
Look
single, but very
up.
proud. Yes, and this actually reminds me of something that it's actually again, universe just throwing me signs all the time. I just came across this random tweet when all this was happening, and it's called projective identification. I sent it to you. Did you look it up?
Yes, and I thought I understood it, and then I kept reading it, and I was like, wait, I need you to explain it.
Okay,
yeah.
I think it just relates kind of to what we're both been going through. So I'll just read you the definition first, and then we can talk about it. So in psychoanalysis, projective identification is a defense mechanism in which the individual projects qualities that are unacceptable to the self onto another person, and that person interjects the projected qualities and believes him or herself to be characterized by them appropriately and justifiably. So it's a kind of confusing definition, but basically what it means is like, say you go on a date with someone who, or it doesn't have to be a date, you meet a client or a friend or something, a new person, and they have these insecurities that they're avoiding, they're like trying to ignore, but they are maybe through a comment or maybe just through energy even, they're kind of, you're picking up on their insecurities. And in turn, that's making you, say, for example, if they were, say, super insecure, like saying everybody hates me, like I'm weird, whatever, and you're picking up on that and you actually start agreeing with that, like, oh, this person's weird. So it works in that way too. But it can also work in a way as of like, say you're going on a date with someone and they have insecurities and they're somehow projecting them onto you, and you kind of identify yourself with that, like subconsciously, like you don't even realize you're doing it. And then you start feeling insecure yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect sense. I know I'm about to sound like a crazy person, but I'm so big into protecting our energy fields. And energy isn't anything that we can physically see. Mm-hmm. So I realize I sound crazy, but I promise just
stick with
it. Yeah. So we have done such a good job at clearing up our energy field. And then this is like, once you clear it up, then that's when you get to the point in life where whatever is thrown your way, you can trust it, because you know that you can only attract into your life what you're an energetic match to. So if your energy's clean, then yes. And then on the opposite way, if anything with like a negative energy field comes your way, or that it tries to, your energy will repel that. So it'll fall out of your life one way or another. But if you force that, like, this is why you have to go with the flow and not control anything. Just whatever's going to come into your life, let it. Whatever is going to come out, let it go out. But when you try to control and like hold tight to a relationship, or you really want the guy to like you, then that's when that happens, and their energy is going to weigh you down.
Yeah, it's something to really look out for when you're meeting new people, especially dating, because it's like a mirror every time we're interacting with someone. And someone put it as, all that you like or dislike about this person is an aspect of yourself that you see in them.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
So much sense.
Yeah. So it's like, be careful when you are meeting someone, like dating someone, and, it's moving fast and they're like, they're making you feel good and really kind of like maybe moving fast. There's probably something in them.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. That's what I was pretty much saying earlier about the guy that I'm dating right now. Like, when I was like, if I'm being bothered by his money situation, I was like, I know it doesn't have anything to do with him. Like, everything in life is a mirror. So like, what do I need to see within myself? And then once I went to Europe and then my cup was filled, it made me realize how I was looking for him to fill a money void within me, which comes from insecurities, which explains why I was dating the millionaires when it was never a healthy relationship. Like, it was a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is like how it works for like say you're us dating someone who's avoidant. So avoidant people are also insecure. I think we forget that a lot of times. We think, oh, they're just so independent, they don't care, like they're nonchalant, but they're also like, they're avoidant, they have low self-confidence and low self-esteem. So that's why being with those types of people is just so detrimental for us as like anxious people, because we're going to pick up on their energies too, like their low self-esteem, their insecurity. Like, we already have that.
Yeah.
And so now we're getting it from them. And so it's just like doubling what we're already feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense, because that reminds me of guys that I have met that I think are very independent, and I'm like, why don't they pay more attention to me? And then it kind of starts to make me like feel insecure about myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, why doesn't he like me?
Yeah, yeah. And the whole time it has nothing to do with you. It's them dealing with their low self-esteem the way that they know how.
Yeah.
And I know for avoiding people, it's like they have a fear of being rejected because they're not good enough, which is, similar to what we experience too. And yeah, obviously it's the same thing with anxiously attached people. I feel like that probably definitely played a part. And this guy that I was just dating, like we were both anxious. He had some insecurities and I was picking up on that, and it was making me like, I was feeling like that for a while, and I was like, why am I still feeling like this? Like, I already...
Wait, can you explain the type that you have from the book? Because so there's anxious, and then avoidant, and then what's the type that we need to be
secure
with? Oh, okay. Can you explain what secure is like so people know what to look out for?
Yeah, basically secure is just like someone who they don't feel the need to be validated. They don't need like all this attention. They're not needy. They're just comfortable, really, and they don't get in they're also communicative. So they'll like be able to communicate with you, be vulnerable with you, share their feelings. Like an avoidant person's not going to do that.
Yeah, hell no.
Yeah, that person's going to hold it all in. Like they're going to tell you how they feel. They're going to be able to like approach disagreements and arguments from like what would you say, like a peaceful place. Like it's things aren't going to be like an argument all the time, because they're able to like look outside, I guess.
This was literally Dawn. Everything you're saying about the avoidant is
Dawn. 100%.
Like I would be like, what are we doing? Are we gonna become official, or why are we dating long distance? Like, this is stupid. We're not seeing each other enough. And our entire conversation would just go in circles. He just wanted to avoid it all. He would answer my questions, but not directly. It drove me nuts.
They're keeping you at a distance. Yes. Like we can't get too close to you because they're they're just scared.
Holy
shit. It's just
shit.
crazy. Because and then my ex, Parker, is the one who we broke up in January. Like the most avoidant person I've ever met in my life. Like maybe we can get into that another time so I can tell you guys some examples of like avoidant people qualities, but it was just textbook, and it just makes you feel like shit.
Yes.
Because you don't think what's wrong with them. It's just what's wrong with me. Like why don't they want to get close to me?
Oh yeah, no, exactly with me and John. I mean, we talked for an entire year. So I was like, he's giving me enough attention because he's talking to me every day, and he's the one always initiating the conversation and keeping it going. He's like whining and dining me. He's buying me really expensive gifts. So like, what's wrong with me that we're not taking it to the next step and making things official?
Yeah, but it's never you.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's never you. So yeah, I think this is just amazing. Like how far we've come from last year.
Thank God. Oh my God. Yeah. It's a huge transformation.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because obviously day to day, you don't realize how much you've changed until you stop to think about it. Like either when you stop to journal or what we're doing right now. And then it's like, holy shit. Like take a moment to be proud of yourself.
Oh, so proud. Because I never thought I would move past that. I just accepted that's how I was going to be.
Same. I just thought my life was going to be chaotic forever.
Yeah. And then even when I started working with Laura, I was like, okay, like I'll work towards this. But like, I couldn't picture anything else.
Oh, yeah. I know.
I was like, okay, I'll work on it. But like, I just had no idea what that would look like or feel like. And then just one day, you just kind of realize like, oh, you know what it's like that feeling.
This is so weird that we're talking about this, because this is literally what hit me this morning when I was journaling, when I was writing out how my cup was filled. Because I knew that I had come back from Portugal, like, really excited. It was an amazing trip. But until I sat down to journal about it, I was able to, I guess, like put an end to all my thoughts. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like put them all together. And that's when I was like, oh shit, I have filled my cup. And then I was like, oh shit, the moment is here. It's actually, it was so surreal.
Oh my God, that makes me so happy.
I know. Thank God. And I'm just so grateful.
Yeah, same.
Like, thank God we have Laura.
Thank God we have Laura. And yeah, just good for us for doing this hard work.
Yeah, it's so worth it. Yeah. This is a much better life.
Yeah.
And that too, when I was like, oh wait, my cup is filled. It was like an oh shit, and then oh shit. It just kept getting bigger oh shit moments, because then I was like, oh my God, I actually love my life, and I'm happy for the first time in my entire life.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, this is kind of crazy, because I literally
crazy.
I literally was thinking the same this past weekend. What? Like, I was just like driving around in my car, and I was like, oh my God. I was just like, I just feel happy.
How crazy.
You know? I was like, I love my life.
To being so anxious our entire life.
Or like, even if you're like, I'm driving around, I'm either thinking about something that happened in the past or something that's coming up in the future.
Yes.
But I was just like driving around, I was like, I just like felt happy, and I like thought it to myself, and I was like, I just love my life here in Austin, and like, yeah.
Cute. I really thought I had accepted a year ago when I was so depressed. I was like, I'm either going to die soon or I'll just be miserable for my whole life.
Yeah.
So to now be here literally in just 1 year, I was like, holy shit, this is insane.
Yeah. And you can tell you really start to feel that, like when you go through something like me and you just did, where we have like a big realization of, kind of realizing who we are and not repeating past mistakes.
Oh my God.
And like, that's when you really feel it.
It's such a relief.
Yeah. Like, weight off your shoulders.
Yes.
Like, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yes. Like this morning when I was journaling again, and then I realized like, oh, I actually don't want to jeopardize what I have going on with this guy, because I, for the first time in my entire life, value feeling safe and confident with him. And then it was a no shit moment where I was like, oh my God, never in my life have I valued this before. And now I don't have to worry about being scandalous and promiscuous.
Right. Yeah.
That really is.
That's how I feel too. Like, I don't have to worry about like trying to go out and get attention, and go home with someone to like fill that void and then have them leave the next day.
Yes.
Like, it's just a cycle that would like, I'm with you. I'm so proud of us.
Same.
And all you Delulu besties out there can do it too. Like, if you're struggling with any of the stuff that we have, stick with us, follow with our advice, and you'll get there.
Yeah, you will. And this is why Danny and I are doing this. Another thing that I really value now is authenticity, and going back to my trip in Portugal, and then just realizing how everybody here in the US is so sucked into their own worlds, and it's just honestly kind of miserable compared to how happy and relaxed people were just walking down the street in Portugal, and then coming back here and going to the nail salon, and all the girls were just sitting there glued to their phones, like not interacting. I was like, they just are lonely. They don't talk to enough people throughout the day. No one here talks to strangers. Like, all we want is to spread authenticity.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We love y'all so much. Go be authentic, smile, talk to strangers, and we'll see y'all next week.
See you guys next week.